Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second board challenge review. How did it go? I think the scores were pretty good for most people. Abdul just thought, I'm going to do this without any preparation on the beginner, and didn't quite work as expected, did it, Abdul? But apart from that, everyone got really good scores. So, yeah, nice. So basically, because everyone managed to solve it and you solved it in good time, I don't want to labour the point too much of how to use map and reduce. I think you're fairly comfortable with that. I will open up the floor to any questions that you might have on those two methods. And we also did a workshop on map and reduce as well on Monday, yeah? So we've covered them reasonably well, but if you still have any queries and you want to ask them now, I am all ears. Did you have any prepared questions? And I assume as well, by the lack of a response from Slack, which I've just addressed, then you didn't look at the additional snippet from the from the Letvar and Const workshop. You did or you didn't, Alofa? Haven't looked at it yet. So we're going to cover that as well, right? So I knew that we wouldn't have too much time to spend on map and reduce, so we'll cover that snippet in this workshop as well. Because that's something important, that's a common interview question. I wanted you to play around with it at least, yeah? Okay, any questions on the map and reduce board challenge? So you all perfectly understand map and reduce now. In which case I can show you a more advanced case of using reduce, and we can try and decipher that one.
I was just wondering, like, in which, because you can use reduce to do basically the same thing that sum does, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in which case would you choose one or the other?
So you said you can use reduce to do the same thing that sum does. What's sum?
Like additioning 7.
But is that a method built into JavaScript? It might be built into other languages, but I don't think you'll find the sum method anywhere in JavaScript.
There is a sum method.
There is a sum method. Can you share me it, Abdul? Because I don't believe there is.
Okay, it might not be with array, but maybe string or array, I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. Get it. Yeah.
So what do you think it is? Abdul, say again.
Oh, sorry, I meant sum as in S-O-M-E.
Oh, S-O-M-E. Okay, that's not what you meant though, is it? No. An S meant to add up things, yeah, to sum them, to total them. Yeah, of course, there's a, it's the same word, right? There's a sum method, S-O-M-E, absolutely, but there's not a way of totaling up all of the values. There is with Python or other languages, sure, yeah. So maybe at some stage we will get that, but is it really needed? Can we easily just do a for loop or use reduce to sum them? Yeah, it doesn't take too much, right? Okay. So yeah, are we clear, I guess, when to use map and when we might use reduce? Could we rewrite this map function using reduce? We definitely could, yeah? Should we give that a go? Let me transfer this snippet over into DevTools. Too many windows. Okay, I'll just run my code, check that it's getting what we expect. Yeah, an array of 2, 6, and 8. Makes sense, right? We're doubling each element. This is the same question that we covered in the board challenge. So, if instead then, I want to use the reduce method. Now, just to clarify, if we can use it with map and we want to return an array of the same length as the original array, then it makes sense to use map, right? But if we wanted to do something that wasn't covered by any of the other built-in functions, something that was perhaps more complex, and filter didn't cover it, map didn't cover it easily, then reduce is the fallback. Reduce is the one that we can pretty much make do anything, or at least return a value that we can manipulate in some way to get our desired result. Yeah. But we should be able to cover a lot of use cases with reduce that don't necessarily get covered with map and filter and other specific methods like that. Okay, so yeah, where would we start? What arguments does reduce take? In general, an accumulator, fantastic, yeah. And we might want the current value. We might even want the index and the array as well. Yeah? I'm going to ignore the this value for now. Because we've got multiple arguments, then we need to wrap them. Yeah, we need to group them using our brackets. I'll then finish off my arrow function syntax, and we've got something like that. So all we want to do is take this scores array and double each element inside. Any suggestions of how we could do that using reduce? I'm not saying it's the most efficient way, right? We just use a map, but let's test our understanding of reduce and see what we can make it do. Yeah, go on, Rich, do you want to start us off?
So for the second element of reduce, we put an array, an empty array.
Okay, so we know that we want to return an array. Well, maybe I haven't clarified that for some people watching at home, but we saw that our map function returned an array of 2, 4, and 6 inside. So we want to return an array, the same as before. So therefore, Richard is suggesting, why don't we initialize our accumulator to be an array to begin with? And then we can just put the doubled values inside of this new array that we've set as our accumulator. Does that make sense? Remember that this initial value of the accumulator doesn't literally have to be a number or something. We've used 0, haven't we, when summing things? We could instead use a more complex object such as an array or an object itself, yeah? In this case, great, let's use an array. Okay, how are we going to populate that array then with double the values?
Return and then dot concat.
Yep, so we need to return our accumulator, and we want our accumulator to change from iteration to iteration, and to add some elements inside of it. As it's an array, Richard is suggesting that we can use the concat method. What does concat do? Do you remember that one? Yeah, someone else? Nilofer? Yeah, so essentially it's going to put something inside of that first array. Yeah, join it into that first array. Could we join a string? Would that work? Can we concat a string, or does it have to be another array? Yeah? If I take, well, maybe let's finish this function first, and then I'll show you at the end. I'll show you at the end whether we can do additional things in there if they're not an array. Alright, so we've got array.concat. So what do we want to concat in each time we iterate through?
Current val times 2.
Yeah, the current val times 2. Yeah, so on each iteration, we'll put a breakpoint in it and we'll see what happens, but on each iteration we should take the current value, multiply it by 2, and then put that inside of our accumulator, which is an array. Let's see what happens. Breakpoint on line 4 after I save it. Pray that DevTools wants to work nicely with breakpoints this afternoon, and then we run the code. Okay. First iteration, accumulator, empty array. Of course it is. We initialized it to that as our second argument in reduce. Current value, 1. Index, 0, because it takes the index of the array that we're iterating over. So we're still here at the moment. And the array itself is the original array, scores in this case. It's a copy of the original array, I think, which is 1, 3, and 4. It's a reference to the original array. On the next iteration, what are the values going to be of each of these 4 variables, please, someone? Someone who's not Richard to begin with. I've upset Richard by not letting him do the board challenge straight away, and now I'm telling him not to answer. So when I hit this breakpoint again, when I step onto the next iteration of my reduce, or of my callback, what will be the values of ACC, the accumulator, and all the other arguments that we've passed in there? We can do one each. You want to go for the first one, Nilofer? Yeah. Accumulator will be 1, what, on its own as a number, or can you just clarify your 1 for me? First element of the array. So the accumulator will still be an array, yeah, but we've concatenated 1 inside of it. I agree, definitely. So what's the current value going to be? Someone else? Aeneas or Porik? 2? Is it? Where's a 2? I can't see a 2 anywhere in my original array. Where are you getting a 2 from?
I was reading it as the hack has 1 from previously, then it also has to do times 2.
Yeah. So Nilofer's answer wasn't correct exactly because she forgot to times by 2. So the accumulator will be an array with 2 inside of it. But then what's the current value? Good, yes, so it's 3. You said 2 though to begin with, right? But the current value next time round will be 3.
You understood what I meant after explaining it?
Yeah. That's the easiest excuse, right? You say, I said 2, but you know what I meant. I actually meant 3. So, I understand when you explained it. You explained it well, but it's a poor excuse. Moving on. Next one. The index, just to be clear, that's the index, not the accumulator. The index. What's the value of the index going to be? 1. Thank you, Aeneas. And that leaves the array. What's the value of the array going to be for Vince? Yeah. You weren't listening. Terrible excuse. That's even worse than I thought you meant. So, we're going through the value of each of these arguments on the next iteration. We've covered what the accumulator is, the current value, the index, and you're left with the array. Oh, sorry, Abdul, you've got out of this one. I'll come to you next time.
Okay.
What's the array going to be on iteration 2? So this is our first iteration here. We've got the values displayed. Yeah. Now I want to know when I press that button again, what is the value of the array going to be this time round?
The array would be 1 times 2. The array would be 2 and 6.
Okay, I'm going to run it, and I think we've got most of them, but not quite all of them correct. So, do you have any idea, Abdul, what the array is going to be on the...
It's still going to be 3.
Still going to be 3. When was it ever 3?
If says there array is equal to 3 in quotes.
Oh, 3 in length, yeah.
Yeah.
But the actual array is equal to 1, 3, and 4 the first time around. So will it change or will it be the same?
But the values in the array will have changed because the accumulator have changed. The current value has changed as well.
Okay, let's run the code and we'll see what we get. Yep. So, I've got a second breakpoint. Oh, my current value equals, so I'm still on current value equals 1. Let's keep going until we get current value equals 3. Here we go. So, the accumulator now. Yep, you're quite correct, Nalofa. It's pushed in 2 times the current value, which was 2. We're now on the current value of 3 because we're on the second iteration. Therefore, the index is 1, as Aeneas said. But the array is unchanged, right? The array is just a reference to the original array. That's all the array argument is. So that will always be 1, 3, and 4. Yeah? It's only for more complex questions that we might need to reference this array and get maybe a particular index or something from the original array. I think, Vince, you were doing a question like this yesterday with using is previous digit divisible by... Yeah, so you might want to use the original array inside of a... Yeah, inside of a reduce for that sort of question. That would be a good candidate to use the index in the array. We don't need it in this case, but I just put them there to go a little bit deeper into what the reduce function could use. Yeah, okay, cool. Well, at least you're learning something, yeah? As long as you listen. Right then, moving on again. Well, you should check Slack and then I wouldn't have any reason to complain.
Do you check your own messages?
I do, yeah. I know exactly what I've got to check tonight based on the messages I've left myself. Okay. Where were we? Yeah, and then obviously the next time through we're going to have a 2 and what in the accumulator? Abdul, it's your turn, I think. 2 and 6, Nilofer, yeah. Current value is going to be next time round
4.
4, correct. Index is going to be 2. The array is going to be the same, right? 2 and 6, 4, 2, same array. Fantastic. And then this should be the last iteration. And we end up with 2, 6, and 8 as before. So we've rewritten that map function using reduce. Wasn't that much more complicated, but you can just see the power of reduce and how versatile it can be. And a really good use of using an initial value there that is a more complex data type. Yeah. So essentially we've returned 3 values, but we've just reduced them down into one array, right? Okay, yeah, any more questions, I guess, on the map and reduce? If not, we'll move on to the snippet from yesterday. No? Cool. But keep practicing with those methods because they're very important and you'll use them a lot throughout your careers. All right then, yesterday we were talking about var, let, and const, the ways that we declare variables in JavaScript, and we wanted to find out what some of the differences were. We mentioned they have, we mentioned they have different scopes. Can everyone remember what scope var was by default? Was it global or was it function scope?
Global.
No, we saw that it could pollute the global namespace, but it's actually function scope, yeah? Because when we declare, well, let's try it, right? Let's declare number with var. I know, let's give it a value of 2, for example. So will this num here, declared with var, will that be available on my global object? No, because var is not global scope. It doesn't automatically append things to my global object. We can run that and check. That's obviously the output of the code. But then if we did console.log window.num and we run that, then we get undefined. Yeah, because window.num is undefined. If we put it outside of the function and declared it with var, let's have a number 9 or 999 for danger, right? Do not do this. Then window.num this time is 999, yeah? So we have polluted the global scope.
Okay, so it only pulls the global scope when it is defined outside the function.
Yep. So only when it's outside of a function will it pollute the global scope. If it's contained within the function, then var doesn't pollute the global scope. But anyway, the important ones we need to concentrate on are let and const really, yeah, because they're the ones that you're going to be using from now on. We don't want to use var in modern JavaScript. Let me try and go back to my original code. Okay. So the question is then, what I wanted you to do was really play around with this, but what we can play around with is we can play around with line 3 and we can play around with line 5 and we can do any combination of var num, let num, const num in any of those places, yeah, or even just num on its own like I've done there. And we'll have a guess what the output should be, and then we'll just check that we're correct and understand why it has done that. So let's just do one with var and then we'll move on to let and const to show the differences. What will be the value of num when I run that function?
The value of
The variable num. What is the value of the variable num?
line 3.
So you think it's going to be,
The value you have in line 3.
and what's that value
I don't know.
on line 3?
Undefined.
Undefined, yeah. So when I initialize a variable like that, it's just going to be undefined. Okay. So you think it will take that num when we console log it down here, yeah?
Yeah.
If you like, I can obviously return num as well if you prefer that. Who agrees with Abdul? Will it be undefined? Or will it be 4? Or will it be something else?
I'm gonna say 4 as well.
Okay. Oh, Abdul said undefined, didn't he? Sorry, Abdul. What did you say? Undefined or 4, Abdul?
I said not 4.
Not 4.
Yeah.
Not 4. So no, hold on. What? Once more, Abdul.
I don't expect it to be 4.
You do not expect it to be 4.
Yeah, but I'm not sure exactly what the value the console will spit out.
Okay. I'll let you say anything but 4. It's a bit of a rubbish answer. Try and be specific, but I'm going to put you down as undefined. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Richard said 4.
Yeah, 4.
Are you just agreeing with Richard nowadays, or? Nilofer?
4.
Vince 4. Nilofer was 4 as well. And Porik?
Actually, I think it will be numb.
Abdul's changed to null, I think.
No, sorry, numb.
Num.
Yeah.
The value of num will be num. Okay.
I go
You go 4 or you go for something else?
for
4.
I think it's 4 because vars are only function scope and not if scope. So if it's declared an if, you should be able to see outside.
Yep. So. So what will we get? We will get, as expected, 4. Yeah. So when we declare it up here, it's undefined, right? So if we didn't, what can I put in there? I'll just put another variable name for now. So if we didn't declare a number inside of our block, then of course we're going to get undefined, yeah? So that's what happens when we just initialize a variable without any value. It gets initialized to undefined. If we tried to reassign that, then it will be 4. Or it also accepts appending it with another var declaration as well. If instead we use let in that case, is that going to work? Yeah, because num, there's no num defined inside of our block, but we have declared something outside, so we should be able to overwrite that with the value of 4 also. Cool, works. If we have separate nums, will our value now be 7 or 3? That looked like a 6 to me. 7, yeah. Okay, so Richard is going with 7. And Porik's going with a 3. What club is everyone else in? The 3 club or the 7 club?
Civil War.
What's that?
Civil War.
Civil War.
I want it 7 as well.
Nilofer, where are you? You down here with 3 or you want to change to 7?
I want to change to 7, please.
Aeneas wants to change to 7. Abdul?
It will be 7 because
So you think 7 also? Because you gave a reason as well?
because it doesn't allow you to redeclare it if it's in the same scope.
Oh, so you think it would actually be an error, do you? Or
Yeah.
oh, so Abdul's going error.
No.
Oh, you're not going error.
I said 7, but I'm explaining it for the. Can I
Oh.
get extra point for the explanation?
Abdul wants extra points for his explanation. If someone can understand his explanation, because obviously I can't, I keep misinterpreting him, then... Go on then, Abdul explain and someone else will see if they agree with you.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if it wouldn't allow you. It wouldn't allow you to redeclare it and initialize it twice.
He said it wouldn't allow you to redeclare it
Like if you
and
have
reinitialize it twice.
hide that block of code, then that will give you an error, isn't it?
So it's either going to return 4 or it's going to give you an error. If it gives you an error, it's not going to return 4 or 7 or whatever. Yeah, so it's one or the other. It's either a number or an error. It can't be both. Right, so anyway, we've got number equals 7 in function scope here. Then we've created a new block. And we've said let number equal 3 inside of that block. Our console log, where is that located? Inside of our block or inside of our function? We could say, but yeah. So it's not inside of the inner block here. It's just inside of our function, yeah? So I imagine that's why people are saying 7, yeah? Because we're logging the number that is present in this current scope, which is the function scope. And that's correct. So if we had our console.log inside, and by the way, no error or warning or anything, right? If we had a console.log inside, like that, would it be 7 or 3? 3, right? We say 3 now because these are in the same scope. We've declared a variable with the same name as what's outside. And our whole, sorry, that's a bit confusing now, right? Because our whole function was returning the function scope number, but the console log, the one I was talking about, is inside of the block. So of course it takes the 3 that's inside. If I put the console log statement above my let num equal 3, is it still going to be 3 or will it not be able to find that 3? You think it'd be 7 now, yeah? Ooh, look at that. Cannot access num before initialization. But they're treated as separate variables in memory.
Yeah, because
So
console log is the inside function, inside that block. And it's outside the block.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing, that error. But what I wanted to show you the difference was, is if we did, yeah, that would have to be a line as well. Is this one going to be 7 or 3? 7. It is going to be 7. Confuse myself now. So yeah, where am I going with my example?
I get 2 values returned. Like my console printed out the value of number 7 and under it I've got 3
But is that because you've still got your return statement
with bar.
there?
Oh.
I think that's why you're getting 2 values printed out, because you've left your return statement in there, yeah? Yeah, so the main differences come when we return things from our function, but we have got an additional number inside of this block. So if we declare the additional number inside with a var, then that is essentially available throughout our whole function. Yeah, it overwrites our initial num up there in function scope. If we use let, then we get our 7, doesn't get overwritten. If we use const, doesn't get overwritten. If we use var, it does get overwritten. Yeah? That's the difference I'm mainly trying to explain, is that let and const have block scope, so therefore anything defined in the function scope is not going to get overwritten by what's inside of that block. If you did use a var, then that's the main point of this exercise. But please play around with that snippet if it's still not clear, because I tried to do a few additional things and probably ended up confusing you as well as myself. Any questions on that? No loafer? No? Abdul?
No.
No. Cool.
So, if you had let on the first one 7,
Yep.
and you just had num equals 3,
Yeah.
would it only be 3?
What do we think, guys? Will that then be 3 as
Because you're
Horik suggested?
you're just you're not initializing a new one, so that's why.
It should be 3.
Yeah, I agree. It should be 3 because to find that num, it is searching. First, it searches inside the block. It can't find it, so therefore it goes up the scope chain and finds it there and sets it to 3. If you did something like that, will it now be 3
No,
or 7? Yeah, because now when we do num equals 3, it finds this num and sets that one to 3, and it's left this one alone completely, and that's the num that we're returning. Yeah. So that was a bit on let and const and a bit on scope, but really important to understand, otherwise you'll get some weird bugs again. Okay, we will leave it there.